Hello, and thank you for joining us today. Sorry we're a few minutes late, but we were having some technical difficulties, which have been fixed now. I am so excited that you're here today, and so excited for today's program. Um, Adam Kasweiner, aka ChefKas, graduated from Newark Academy in 1999, a great year. He then graduated from Emory University in 2003, where he double majored in biology and philosophy, and served in the Peace Corps, where he was stationed in Bangladesh from 2003 to 2005. He's a professor of capoeira, the African Brazilian martial art, and his culinary specialty and expertise is in clean eating, athletic performance, culinary nutrition, and plant-based cuisine. His corporate clientele includes companies such as Google, Apple, Microsoft, and his athlete clientele includes MLB MVPs, UFC world champions, NBA, NFL, MLS, and American Ninja Warrior athletes. ChefKas works with individuals looking to improve their overall state of being and performance through systems and strategies based around food and nutrition, fitness, and mindset. And today, he will be cooking a dish for us called So Fresh and So Clean Chickpea Ragu. ChefKas, thanks so much for joining us from Las Vegas.
You are very welcome, sir. Thank you for inviting me to be part. And again, I also apologize for the technical difficulties, but we got it working. So
It's working.
We're here now. So yeah, I'm excited. As you said, we're going to be making chickpea ragu. The idea here today is to make something that's very flavorful. I kind of have certain boxes I like to check, right? So something that's enjoyable. We like to eat it. It doesn't feel like work, right? When it's like cleaner food, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden now it shouldn't taste good, right? That we should be missing something during or after we eat. The second box is, guys, sometimes I'm just like, I want to make something fast, easy, right? Or something that I can make in a batch, right? I'm really big on batch preparation so that you don't have to cook from scratch every single time. You know, it's just a lot easier that way. So that's another kind of box I like to check. Make sure that it's something that I can produce easily and or produce in a batch. The third thing for me is, generally speaking, not always by any means, but generally speaking, I like to eat things that make me feel good, right? So some people will say healthy eating. Some people will say clean eating. Some people will say diet. You know, you can call it whatever you want. Also, what we're making today is completely 100% plant-based, no animal products whatsoever. But that doesn't mean that if you love animal products, you couldn't add some, right? So instead of using, for example, coconut cream, which we're going to be using today, you know, instead of using that, you want to use heavy cream. Like, I don't like to tell my clients and the people that I work with, I don't like to tell them, you know, what they should and shouldn't eat. I like to help them figure out what makes them feel best. So if you watch this today and you're like, wow, I really want to, like, you know, get with ChefKas and like talk to him about what I'm doing and maybe come up with some strategies. I'm really big on systems and strategies because then you don't like fly around. You're doing all these different things. You know, what's the in style trendy diet? Plant-based I've been doing for about 4 years now. But clean eating and such, I've been doing for about 25. So yeah, I'll just kind of leave it there. But if you want to get with me, just go to ChefKas. Where is it? This one, ChefKas.com. You might find some more information about things that you're interested there. Also, appleberry pie recipe is available. So let me start off. I've got a nice little sauce pot here. The recipe is available, Evan, right? Someplace that you're going to give them the recipe. So I've got my crushed tomatoes. I'm doing some of the kitchen magic beforehand. Oh, look at that. That's a move. That's a move. And I see my buddies from class of 99, Jay Jones, Mike K, I think Mike Chu, all watching right now. Just want to give them some shout outs. Stan Sung, class of 2000. I think my family's might be on here too. I like to use the spatula a lot in the kitchen. So I'm going to kind of give you guys the recipe. But I really like to share with you know, the people I work with a lot of like the little details that I learned in culinary school. I think you mentioned my culinary school background, Evan, but if you didn't, I went to the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York, just about an hour and 45 minutes north from NA. Yeah, and I focused in culinary nutrition there along with my previous degree. So thanks, Jones. I see you. So coconut milk, again, this is going to be what gives the flavor a little bit of like that creaminess, right? Like I mentioned, you can use heavy cream if you want, but what I like to do is I like to combine different acids and bases, different flavor profiles, sweet and savory. A lot of those contrasts make for a really nice flavor experience, but also a really nice mouthfeel. So there's a few things that you're really looking for when you produce a dish, besides, of course, just flavor, besides just tasting good. A couple of the other ones are texture. Texture is really big. Smooth, crunchy, crunchy on the outside, soft on the inside. That's a big favorite. And then somebody knocking on my door. Who's knocking on my door? They're like, we heard this guy's doing a demo. We're going to bother him right now. So that's how it goes, right? Along with the technical difficulties. It's appleberries out there. What's going on out there? So I've got the coconut cream in there. I've got the crushed tomatoes. Again, I'm looking for different flavor profiles, different acids, bases. Contrast is the word I like to use. I think of it a lot like music. It's like the high pitch, low pitch, fast, slow, contrast. It produces a different experience. Here I've got a can of tomato paste. Here I've got a can of tomato paste. This is going to help thicken it up a little bit. Also just add a really, really concentrated tomatoey flavor. Canned tomatoes and crushed tomatoes and tomato paste are really good because, again, you can keep that stuff in the house. You don't have to always go shop for it fresh. You can have those as your bases. You can make so many different types of sauces from just having those available. A lot of different types of cuisines. So at that point, now I've got a few items that I prepped beforehand. I've got some sauteed red onion. Just going to take that whole thing, put it right in there. So the red onion, as Evan put up for us, was diced, and it was also sauteed beforehand. I'm going to give you guys a nice little look at that. Okay. And then with my kitchen magic here, I've got some sauteed caramelized garlic. This is fun. I like this stuff. Hope you guys are enjoying. Look forward to hearing your feedback, your comments. You can, like I said, contact me on ChefKas.com, but you can also go to my Instagram, ChefKas Official, ChefKas on Facebook. All right, I'd love to hear it from you guys. All right, so then I got that. I'm also going to add in here some previously sauteed. I do need to work on my lighting. Anybody from NA who works with lighting, contact me. All right, I'm going to put some mushrooms in here, sauteed mushrooms. And then I've got my fresh chopped basil. So I know I didn't say to you in the recipe mushrooms, Evan, because what I tried to do was I tried to make this kind of what I would call a neutral recipe, something that, no matter who you are, you can kind of find a way to like it. I know a lot of people, I have a lot of clients that don't like mushrooms. A lot of clients don't like mushrooms. So I put some optional add-ins. Mushrooms are one, eggplant's one. I've got some eggplant. I'm going to get working. So right now, just kind of giving this a nice stir. All right. Blend. Incorporate everything together. And then what I wanted to say earlier about tomatoes, just in terms of their nutrition content, is tomatoes are actually one of those rare foods that actually you can get more nutrition out of when it's cooked. So I've got this on the burner now. Okay. Okay. And I'm just going to let that work for a bit. I'm going to let that cook for a bit. Flavor grab a lid for this. Flavor is developed over time in our sauces, right? So I just put the lid on. That way I can control the thickness of the sauce there. Let me grab some chickpeas. Bear with me. Evan, do you have any questions for me so far, buddy? I just want to do a quick check-in.
Yeah. Mrs. Jacoby wants to know what the ingredients are being sauteed in.
Okay, cool. Great question. So I used olive oil, a little bit of crushed Himalayan pink salt, and some fresh crushed black pepper. I'm big on lids. So again, I don't want to just give a recipe. I want to actually focus on some technique aspects as well. So I'm really big on cooking with lids. So this is my eggplant, for example, right? So it's not done yet. I gotta keep it working a little bit, but understanding a little bit about culinary science is really important. So it is a biochemical reaction. The use of heat to cook the food. But what I want to illustrate here is there's 3 ways. It's like some Bill Nye stuff right here. There's 3 ways that heat is transferred into the food. So I've got the eggplant in there. So the first way is obviously the fire on the metal, right? So if I didn't put anything else into the pan, if I didn't put any oil in, I left it uncovered, it's just the hot metal cooking the eggplant, right? The second way is by putting oil in, right? Oil, if you ever touch hot oil, oil absorbs heat. It cooks slightly differently. That's why fried things come out the way that they do, right? They're fried in oil. Anyone who's ever used an air fryer knows it's not really the same as deep frying, right? And then the third way is by keeping the lid on, I'm actually cooking it with some steam. The vapor, the moisture that is released from the eggplant is then also cooking the eggplant as well, which I like to do because it softens it up. It keeps from it drying out, but you still get that really nice color. And when we're cooking, when we're applying heat to food, we're really aiming to do 3 things, right? The easiest example is with bread. I'll give that example in a second. But we're developing color, we're developing flavor, and we're developing texture. So think about bread, right? Just a loaf of bread. What if you put it in the toaster? What does it do? It develops color, right, which is appealing to the eye, right? Think of a steak that's got nice sear on it, or some vegetables, nicely roasted vegetables, nicely sauteed vegetables. Like those mushrooms I just showed you, those onions I just showed you look very different than when they're raw. The texture is important because, as I already said, that's one of the big things that we're looking for when we enjoy food. If you can break it down, like what makes a dish enjoyable, the texture is a huge part, right? So sometimes you've had something that's flavorful, the texture's a little bit weird. You're like, I'm not sure about that, right? And then the third thing is, of course, the flavor. So when we apply heat, eggplant's a great example. Eggplant tastes like nothing before it's cooked, right? Or it tastes kind of in a way weird before it's cooked. After it's cooked, it's delicious, right? Super sweet. And that's what we're doing is with all your carbohydrate-based foods, the application of heat is called the Maillard reaction. Is called caramelization. Maillard reaction is for proteins. Same reaction, applying heat to proteins. That process is called Maillard reaction. But with carbohydrate-based foods, it's how it affects the glucose molecules. Maybe one of the science people on this call could even break this down further for me. I would love to incorporate. We should do that, Evan, as another one of these where we actually bring somebody in who knows a little bit more even than I do about the science aspect, and go through all that. So, but yeah, that's what you're doing when you caramelize eggplant. And again, like you can see, right now it's still sizzling a little bit, but you can see the color, right? And so, like, for example, this piece right here is pretty raw still, right? That piece right there versus like that piece. And this is nothing like someone doesn't know this information, but what I found in cooking is that, like pretty much anything else, the deeper your level of understanding, the better your ability to implement it and replicate it, right? So if you ever made something, if you ever cooked something and it came out great one time and it didn't come out great another time, and you used the same ingredients, what went wrong? You'd be like, oh, I cooked it too long. But maybe you cooked it too long. One time you cooked it longer with the lid on, and the next time you cooked it with the lid off. So just to illustrate that, right now, I'm again cooking this with the lid off because I was seeing that moisture was building up, and it was getting soggier than I'd like it. I'd still like to have those nice caramelized individual pieces. All right, then the last component here, I'm just gonna find my can opener. I threw that someplace. Find the can opener. There we go. 2 cups chickpeas. Yep. So I like how you put in there the parentheses wet. I appreciate you looking at that detail. So just open this real quick. Having a good can opener, good kitchen tool. Another thing I'm really big on, guys, and a lot of times when I do my first class, I do virtual classes with people as well, or in-home classes. One of the first things I focus on is the kitchen organization, is the kitchen setup. A lot of people use their kitchen like a storage facility, or they use their kitchen for like decorative purposes. And I get rid of all that. In your kitchen, the number one thing in your kitchen, most important thing is, for me at least, is surface area, right? Surface area in the fridge, surface area on countertops. That's your workspace, right? If you have your workspace taken up with decorative items and then you don't have a place to put a hot pan that just came out of the oven, and now because you don't have a place to put that hot pan, you're searching, and while you're searching, you get distracted and something burns and ruins your dish. Like, that's not really, just get rid of the decorative item, right? So I work in a lot of people's homes. I work in a lot of people's kitchens. And as you guys can see, like, my kitchen's set up with like industrial tables, right? I don't have like the Wolf burner and full vent exhaust like a bunch of my kitchens that I cook out of, but I can produce amazing food for myself, here as well. So let me just toss this up. You guys get to see some of the fun stuff. Toss the hands, right? All right. So I've got my chickpeas, just drained those. So going back to the chickpeas, I have a friend who he had a hummus company, and he would recommend for chickpeas getting the dried organic ones because they're the most flavorful. If you can get them from a Mediterranean store, or more of a culturally specific food store, those are probably even a better bet, right? A lot of times they import those. Having lived and cooked abroad, I can definitely tell you food in other countries tastes different than the food in the U.S. So the other thing about getting the dried stuff is it is a really good budget way to go if you're trying to save some money on your food costs. And that's another presentation I do, is like how to eat really, really well and really not spend too much money, which I know a lot of people, they spend a lot on food and they throw a lot away or they order in all the time. I like to make it really, really easy and tasty, and also have it not cost too much. So if that interests you, just give me a shout. So this is the same pan that I sauteed the garlic in. I'm gonna take this. I've got, again, my I'm really big on, I'm working all my burners, or that's what I like to do, at least. I've only got 3 going right now, but I'm gonna shift the sauce to the back. Make sure I stir that in a second. I'm gonna take this pan and get it hot. Evan, do we have any questions? Because I feel like I'm just like going a mile a minute. Anyone who knows me knows that's how I am. I bring the same energy to the gym when I teach capoeira. This is just, I don't think I've changed much. No,
you haven't. That's a good thing.
Thanks.
Someone did want to know about a substitute for the eggplant. I know you mentioned mushrooms, but any other substitutes?
Sure. So these are all kind of like personal favorites, right? Personal add-ons. Same thing with the chickpeas. Like, if you're like, hey, you know what? I eat meat. I'll do some chickpeas, but I really need to get some bison in there. Like, the same processes apply. So there's vegetables I don't like. Like, I don't eat olives, right? If they're on some, I'm like, pick those out and get that out of there, right? So whatever you like another option I put, and I have it on the side here, I was going to kind of get to it, is sweet potatoes. So again, we're focusing on really, really nutrient dense foods, right? That's kind of there's a lot of like culturally popular, trendy terms in food. I don't subscribe to a lot of them, but there are some that I find to actually be pretty accurate, pretty dead on. Nutrient dense is one of those. And your body might need different nutrients than my body needs. So a good example of that is one speaker that I follow. He does an all meat diet, right? And the reason he does this is his daughter had an autoimmune disease. They couldn't figure it out. And she switched to an all meat diet and she started getting healthy. He didn't have as bad of the symptoms, but he had some as well. He switched to an all meat diet and started getting healthier. So I can't tell that guy, right? If that person hires me, I can't tell him you need to switch this. If you know this works for you, try it, do it. But if you are like, hey, I don't really like eggplant, but maybe I'll like it with this, go for it. That's also one reason I didn't put it in the sauce. And with the mushrooms that I did illustrate specifically, you don't need the mushrooms. Like this is one thing I've noticed with a lot of people with food is that they think that if you're missing one ingredient, the rest of the dish won't work. Like maybe if you're missing the crushed tomatoes, it's going to be a little more challenging. But maybe you just use more coconut milk. All right, so my pan's hot. I'm going to take my chickpeas, already strained them, and what I'm doing here is I'm going to get some color on them. Keep in mind they're already soft. If I'm short on time, if you're like I want to make a quick meal or need something to feed the family, you don't have to do this step. You can put the chickpeas as long as they're wet directly into the sauce. And again, going back before about what I said, the dried chickpeas, you would just take those, put them in a bowl. I forget that some of this stuff isn't always self-explanatory, but you put them in a bowl, let them soak overnight, or a Tupperware, let them soak overnight, and they're going to be just like this the next day. You can even let them soak for a few days for them to get super soft. So I'm going to cook these chickpeas off, let them get a little bit color on them as well. And let me just transfer this eggplant just a moment. Another thing, guys, this is one of my little funny kitchen tips, tricks, is keep your Tupperware organized. This is like nothing right now. This is like nothing for usually how it is. Usually this shelf is like totally filled up with Tupperware. I always match the lids to the containers because it keeps easy. But why is it so important, right? Because like I said about having your counter space, it's the little things in the kitchen that make the biggest difference. It's the little things that make the biggest difference. When you're more organized, right? In the culinary world, we call it mise en place. Now, I never took any French classes, and that doesn't sound too much like Spanish or Portuguese or Bengali. But I learned some French in culinary school. By the way, I'm just taking my eggplant out here. This is like the fastest moving cooking show you've ever seen. That's my goal, right? I'm not trying to just hang out and be cutting onions in front of you. I want to get as much value in the time as I possibly can. So again, I'll show you the eggplant right there. But I am going to let this pan get hot again, and then I'm going to throw the chickpeas in there. This is called overcrowding the pan, right? That's what you don't want to do unless you're trying to stew them and have them get really soft. I'm really looking to get some color on them. So I want to have a nice hot pan with a lot of space, a lot of surface area. So
yeah, I've got a question for you.
Yes, I like questions.
With this, the new fad of these plant-based meats, Impossible, Beyond Meat. What do you have thoughts about using those, eating those, limiting the quantity that you eat of those? Just curious about your thoughts on that.
Great question. I love that question. This is what we're here to do, right? Neuro Academy taught me to think, right? Neuro Academy taught me about being a critical thinker. I remember my senior year, I believe, English class. Our teacher, you might have been in the same class with me. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he reminds me of Norm Macdonald. Do you remember who I'm talking about?
Dr. Blackburn.
Were we in the same class?
I think so.
Wow, crazy, right? But he said that one of the most important things you can learn is learning how to learn. And it was like, right? At the time, I got that, but it's literally, what was it? That was 99. So, it's been a long time. So that concept, though, has really stuck with me. And the reason I reference that is, let me just toss some of this oil in this pan, get this oil going. Remember, oil collects heat, but it does take a moment to transfer the heat into the oil. And then I'm going to hit it. And my chickpeas are a little bit wet here. It's going to sizzle for a second. And I'm going to throw my splatter guard on. Dr. Blackburn, yeah. So when I started plant-based eating, it wasn't really something I was into. It was a challenge for me. It was something that I kind of had a little bit of an obligation that I had committed to, and eating plant-based, eating a vegan diet for 3 days was part of that obligation. Was not appealing to me. And I'm going to give you some background context and then I'm going to answer your question. So what I noticed, though, after 3 days only of eating plant-based is some back pain, some really, really debilitating lower back pain that I had been dealing with for years just went away. Like, it was just gone. And at that point, I was working, 8 to 10 hours a day in the kitchen, standing on my feet a lot, still training a fair amount. But just a lot of like, it was like my lower back had like seized up. 3 days on plant-based, no meat. And the pain went away. Went back to work. I was cooking chicken that night for a client. Just out of habit, started eating it again. Back pain came right back. This is only my story. I'm not saying this is gonna be for everybody. This is how my body responded. Even having dairy, even having like whey protein shakes, I noticed the same thing. So I pretty much stuck with it. There were about 4 months where I went back to eating meat when I was working for one client, and then I got off that program. I got back onto eating plant-based. And so some of those newer products, like you're talking about Beyond and Impossible and everything, have come out more since I changed my diet. And the first time I changed it, it was more of like I like wanted to do it. It was like a good idea, but I didn't really get it. I remember trying to eat like a lot of avocado and things like that to get my protein, but really I ended up eating a lot of potato chips, right? Potato chips are vegan, right? Like all that stuff. There's not just the vegan versions. Like there's a lot of junk food. Doritos, right, are vegan. Soda is vegan. So you could say you're vegan. You can say you don't eat meat and still eat a lot of junk. That's why I like to say plant-based, right? So let me just first make that discernment. That's why I like to say focus on nutrient-dense foods, okay? Sweet potatoes, like I showed you earlier. So when you make that distinction, right, that I'm not just eating vegan, but I'm eating plant-based, when I'm not just eating plant-based, but I'm eating nutrient-dense, that's when, for me, I started to look at foods a lot differently. I started to really look at my choices. Because being vegan alone doesn't mean being healthy or feeling good, really, is what it comes down to for me. Like I don't really need to. I don't know what exactly healthy means. So I focus on like feeling good, performing well. all my numbers are good. Having all the measurements where they should be. And as an athlete, performing at a really high level. So to answer your question, when some of those things came out, I did start using them a lot. I got really excited about it. But one thing I noticed was I started relying on it too much. I started relying on those just like relying on any other processed food isn't really ideal, right? If you went to the store and you bought an appleberry pie, right? That wouldn't be like the same as making a fresh appleberry pie, right? It's not the same thing. So I do tend to look at the ingredients when I buy those, and I use them more as a sometimes sort of thing. I'll add them to a dish to get a flavor that maybe I'm not going to get otherwise. If I have a client that's looking for something very specific, let's say I made the same chickpea ragu and I really wanted to have it be more of a rustic Italian-y feel, I might add some of that Beyond Beef sausage. I had some this week, but it had been a while since I'd had it. So for me, it's a sometimes. At the same time, those things are great for helping people who are looking to make that change to a plant-based diet, even a more plant-based diet. It doesn't always have to be 100%. It can be just less meat if that's what's working for you, if that's what's resonating for you. Sorry, I keep putting my hands on the table and the table shakes. So if that's something like your doctor maybe recommended, or someone who it's helped, and you think it could help you, that might be a way to go. I'm again, that's one area where I'm willing to help people if they reach out. and I do an online coaching program, and then I have different modules I'm creating right now as well. Got a new platform coming out soon called the ChefKas effect, and the diet nutrition is a big integrated part into that, along with the fitness and mindset component. So really excited about that. And again, if you want to get more information, just sign up right now at chefkas.com. Hold on. All right. So my sauce is working here. So you're going to notice I took off the lid because I want some of that moisture to come out. But the color's looking really nice. Really, really nice. So think of this as like your vodka sauce. All right, at this point. You can see my chickpeas there. Okay. Really, really nice color. I just want to thicken it up a little bit. So I'm going to let it cook with the top off. And this is, again, one of those dishes where you can kind of like, set it and forget it to an extent. It's going to develop more flavor over time. If you're going to do that, I would recommend doing that on a fairly low heat and with the lid on so it doesn't evaporate too much. You can always add in more liquid if you like. So maybe I should have shown you that part. Hard to talk and do all this at once, man. So, but I added my chickpeas in here. They had some nice color on them. And then I'm going to start to season this a little bit, let that flavor develop. So much nice. Got just some not super special or anything Italian herbs. I'll rep one company that I partnered up with in just a second. So I know I put some exact measurements on the recipe there, Evan, but I kind of, been doing this for a bit. I like to wing it, kind of creative, kind of spontaneous. I did also, I think, put on there, you can add in some red chili flakes. It's just pink Himalayan salt, crushed black pepper. But you can put in some red chili flakes if you want to get a little bit of heat. Now, this company makes some really, really, really good spices, Spiceology. I think I have a code with them, ChefKas. Find me. All right, and they sent me look at all these things. This is beautiful. Okay. So I'm gonna pick out a few of these, and if you're like, "What's going in there?" I'm like, I'm not sure, but it's gonna be delicious. Sometimes you gotta get creative. I'm not gonna put too much of this stuff in, and yes, I do actually know what it is, but I'm just kind of, it's like, powdered garlic, onion. Even though I've got some of that in there, sometimes the flavor profiles on some of the dried stuff is a little bit different. Gives it a little bit more fullness, a little bit more complexity. And basically at that point, I'm just going to let that simmer. What we can do is can let that work. I'll show you how I finish this in just a moment. But maybe if there's any other questions, that would be a good thing to go over, because from here on out, it's pretty easy.
Jay Jones has a question.
Of course he does.
You said appleberry pie a few hundred times. He said a few times. One, that sounds amazing but dangerous. But two, are there baked desserts that are wholly plant-based that you can recommend?
That's a great question. And yeah, it's thanks Jay for being here. So I'm looking for some greens real quick. Where are those? Greenery. Put some of this for the base. So yeah, no, appleberry pie is always a delicious item, especially when it comes back to life, right? So, plant-based desserts, yeah, but at the same time, I'm honestly not much of a pastry chef. But one of the things I love to do, I call it like a candy bar. Okay, this is like, somebody takes this to market. I need to, give me a cut, please. So, I like to take a banana, and this is probably good for the kids. I like to take a banana, assuming no peanut allergies, you can use almond butter. Actually, almond butter is probably even better. So banana, slice it up. I'll take a big fat scoop of almond butter, maybe two. A little bit of agave. I like agave as my sweetener because it is a low glycemic sweetener, meaning that it converts into glucose slower in your bloodstream. I'm going to put this eggplant back in there to get a little bit more coloration. It converts more slowly into glucose, less energy drops. It's just basically a healthier sweetener without going into so much of the detail. And then I like to just put on like what I call like my toppings, right? So I'll put on like bee pollen is really good. It's got a sweetness. It's really bright yellow, so that's kind of like, it looks like sprinkles. All these kind of things kind of do. I'll put on some chia seeds, really good for digestion. Also satiation, makes you feel full. I'll put on maybe a little like cocoa powder or cacao powder. Put in some chocolate chips. Nice dark chocolate chip, vegan ones if you wanted. Some other nuts, some coconut flakes. So it's like you can kind of create whatever flavor profile candy bar you want, doing that kind of a thing.
Great. Now. Thank you. No, that was great. We can hear the sizzling.
That's the eggplant, sir. So let me show you kind of what I do at this point, because another thing that I'm big on, even though I do a lot of cooking, and huge on intermittent fasting. I usually fast pretty much during the day. I'll have a shake in a little while. So at that point, I'm not fasting, but it's caloric deprivation. Keeps my energy super high. If you're curious about fasting, I can tell you more. But there's also a series that just came out on Netflix for anybody who has that. It's called Unwell. And there is an episode about fasting. And it's just, I found it extremely beneficial. And I have a lot of mentors who are extremely impressive individuals physically and mentally who subscribe to it as well. So that's something I got into recently. But then I'll usually eat my big meal. Like I'll have like one real solid meal. That's usually at the end of the day after I train. But again, like going back to the first thing I said, is the goal is always to make it easy, right? I want to go back to that. The goal is to make it easy, because if this is super complicated, no one's going to do it, right? And if it's super complicated, it's not really going to benefit people. It's too much time. It's too much labor. That's why I'm doing something super, super, super simple. Again, you're using things with cans. If you have other fresh vegetables, actually, one other thing I wanted to incorporate, let's see if I can find it real quick. You guys are seeing like the spontaneity happen, because I tried to have all my mise en place done, all my things in place. But yeah, all right, so I got some shredded carrots here as well. So I will jump to the last step in a moment. The plating, I'll have to, Evan, I'll have to show you a plate later, because as I'm about to say, I'm not going to be eating right now. So I'm going to show you that, the finishing touches and what I would do from there. But I promise that I will be eating this tonight, and I will send you the plated version. Maybe I can even do a follow-up video on how to plate it. But what's great is that people can see how I do this as an advanced recipe. So if you like to meal prep, that's kind of what I mentioned in the beginning with batch cooking. So here I'm just taking some shredded carrots, pre-shredded, super easy. If you're like, I want to do as few trips to the grocery store as possible, that's kind of, there's a few vegetables that are going to hold for a few days if you don't use them right away. Again, I'm going to put a little bit of oil on there, get some nice color, get some nice texture, get a little bit of salt. Salt also is one of those things that helps with the cooking process because it pulls out the moisture. So things cook slightly differently when you cook the salt. Cook them with the salt. All right, I'm just gonna let some of the moisture build up. Another little trick is the burnt part, you could call it, what sticks to the pan there. That's called fond, right? Fond is the same root of the word foundation, and that's flavor, right? We say in the culinary industry, we say fond is flavor. So what I'm doing is I'm cooking those carrots now with the lid on, because that same steam, that same moisture I was talking about before is actually going to help take that fond off from the pan. So it's going to be more flavor, because I'm going to cook those carrots, I'm going to get some color on them, and I'm going to put that into my sauce. So you get more nutrients, more different textures, for the enjoyable eating experience. All right, so let me wrap it up with what I would do next. And then again, I'll send you the follow-up video of how to plate everything, because I'm not going to do that right now. All right, I'm going to keep you guys waiting, keep you guys hungry.
We've got another question.
Oh, you hit me.
Also, I just realized that now when you say we're so fond of you, it's a pun. Nice culinary pun.
Well played, sir. Well played.
What's your opinion on nonstick skillets? Everyone I've owned has degraded over time. I tried carbon steel, but never got it nonstick enough. Is there a nonstick option that holds up better than Teflon or ceramic?
Good question. Who's that question from?
Matt Brody.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. So, you know what's funny? It's like a lot of other areas of life. I think that you get what you pay for. You know, once in a while you'll find a great knife or a great pan that you get like CVS or something, or at Whole Foods, and it's pretty good for the price. But really, truth is, a lot of the clients that I cook for, they have the top equipment, and it's better. Don't put it in the dishwasher. You probably know that one. Don't use scrubby sponges. Probably know that one. But the other thing about the Teflon and the nonstick pans is they don't take high heat very well. So and they're really nice to use for searing because they don't get stuck, and then you get that nice sear stuck to the pan. So it's very easy. I recommend, if you're kind of looking to spend not too much but still get some decent quality, is actually like a lot of the restaurant style equipment rather than going to like a Bed Bath and Beyond. If you go to like a Resco, like this is a restaurant style saute pan. But you can also just go to the traditional regular pans, and that's mostly what's used in professional kitchens, and just kind of play around, see how to produce your ideal product. I think that's going to be my approach. You just kind of have to try different things. There's not going to be a one right answer. I don't particularly have a brand of pan that I recommend. Cephalon, something like that. That one's very good. A little bit higher on the price range, but worth it. Again, a lot of equipment, you get what you pay for. And there was another one I was using recently. I think it might have been Epicurious. One of my clients had those. Those are really nice pans. Enjoy cooking with those. Help produce a great product. So yeah. Any others, sir? Now I don't hear you again. How did I lose you? How did I lose your sound again? For real?
Hold on. You can hear me now.
There we go.
Sorry. No questions, but if you have questions, please feel free to comment, and we'll ask them now. Otherwise, we're going to see what happens next.
I'll wrap it up. So here's what I would do now. So I'm going to have like, let me get what I'd be using if I were doing this in real time. I will kind of do a follow-up video where I do this evening. So take a nice bowl that I like to plate in, and then I like to do kind of layers of different foods and nutrient-dense stuff that I want to make sure I'm including in how I eat. So I'm going to take some greens. I'm going to put that as my base. Right, that's going to go right at the base of the bowl. Then I'm going to have what would be usually like a starch, right? So my starch in this case, I'm going nutrient dense here, is going to be some chickpea pasta. Okay, that pre-made this. It's just as good as the when it was first made. Saves me the trouble. One last thing to think about. One of the ways I really like to approach cooking is I'll do a meal like this, like I'm doing right now, that I don't mind having for a few days, that I can always add like a variety of different things into, like we talked about. And then I'll have my bases ready in advance. So this can go, I can make this with some pesto. I could do some lentil meatballs. I could use some of that Beyond Beef sausage we were talking about. Can go with a lot of different things. So then I've got some roasted sweet potatoes, same deal. Cut these up, roasted them in advance. Another class will do some nice sweet potatoes. I have mastered sweet potatoes. I like my sweet potatoes are on point. So let me take these carrots now. Then I pretty much at that point pour my sauce on top of that. Maybe I would at that point put my eggplant in. Here's my carrots. So what I'll do, like I said, got some, you can see the fond built up. Take that, cover that. I might throw a little bit of liquid in there and just get all that, because that's all flavor, right? So just take this. Give that another stir. I'll show you this. Blam. So let's do this. Nothing easy about this situation. So looks pretty nice. Again, might let it thicken up a little bit, but I also think that when it cools down, the thickness is going to be pretty spot on. I did the smart thing, which I did not do for anyone who saw me on primetime national television on The Taste. I did not do the smart thing and do something that I'd done a billion times. All right, that's what I did today. I did something that I've made many, many, many times that I know even if you don't make it exactly according to the recipe, it's not going to be terrible. It's not what I did when I was on TV. So yeah, that was a fun experience. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Then I got like my eggplant, incorporate that in there. Maybe some more fresh basil. Oh, I do have, I'll throw an avocado on there. If somebody's like, how can I get, more protein if you're an athlete or if you're just, concerned about your protein content and you're, new to doing a plant-based diet, I'll throw one of these big avocados. I'll throw half of one of those on there. And again, that's what's great about that is that difference in texture. You get that really nice, smooth texture. I'll also probably throw a nice dollop of hummus on there. It gives it like another creamy aspect. The creaminess is like one of our favorite things in terms of mouthfeel and in the eating experience. Creaminess is like there's nothing quite like that, right? Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Another great thing about this is you can package it up, or you can put it into your Tupperwares, and then you can freeze it. So this does not need to. And if you're like, how long can I freeze it for? I don't know. I've had this stuff in the freezer for a while. Sometimes doesn't mean I always use it, but I'm just saying that you could.
Well, Chef Kaz, thank you so much for this great demonstration. It's we get so used to seeing cooking demonstrations. Careful. We get so used to seeing cooking demonstrations where they pull the finished product out already made. So it was nice to cook along with you. And also thank you for, you've mentioned that you're willing to do some more of these. So
if there's interest, let's get the demand. I want the people. I'm the people's chef, man. I'm the people's chef. There's no appleberry pies going down here. This is the people's chef. Let's hear some demand for more. And I'd like to create some more dishes that I'm comfortable with, but maybe people can request alternate versions of things. If that's one of my specialties is I do work with a lot of individuals and clients who have food. It's normal now, right? Like it's normal now to have something with your food. Like you can eat this, you can't eat that, you like this. And so that's part of the job of a private chef is, really meeting those needs, meeting the specifications, the details that those individuals are looking for. So if someone's like, hey, I love this dish, but I can't eat it now, or my kid can't eat it, how could I make a clean version of that, or a dairy-free version of that, something like that.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again. And go check out his website, follow him on Twitter. Because
I'm not on Twitter too much.
Oh, Instagram.
Once in a while I'll go on Twitter.
Instagram.
Instagram mostly. ChefKas official.
And thanks to everyone out there who's tuned in or you're watching this after the fact. All right.
Yeah, appreciate you guys joining in and look forward to hearing from you. And for sure, let's do another one.
Awesome.
Appreciate you too.
Thanks again.
Setting it up.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, bud. Have a good day.